Hey friends, I am going to talk to you about turning off your internal editor and just sitting down and writing. So, we're going to be talking about that, and I'm going to give you some examples and hopefully some ideas that can help you. So, first of all, I've written 73 books, and none of them, not one, not even close, has been perfect from the first page. In fact, I have parts of books that are on my hard drive that'll never see the light of day, but that's okay. Those things I learned through those books, I learned through those processes, and they got me where I am today. So the important thing is getting words on the paper. But even though they don't come out perfect, all my books become edited by other people. So just know that some of them will be more polished at the beginning, some of them aren't. Some of them are really, really messy drafts, but it comes to the point where they will be edited. And if I spend too much time editing as I'm writing, it does two things. First of all, it really slows me down. And second of all, it discourages me because I think I'm never going to get this right. And that's not something you need to be worried about when you're working on your first draft. So I'm going to tell you a little secret. Sometimes my first drafts are really, really messy. Sometimes I write when I'm exhausted. I homeschool. I have all these kids in the house. And by the time I actually sit down, I'm like, this is the last thing I'm going to be doing. But when I get the words flowing, it's amazing. Even after those exhaustion, something will kick in. And after a page or two, the words will start to come. Sometimes I'm writing when my kids are watching a movie and I'm sitting in the living room with them. Sometimes I even write with my eyes closed. So maybe it might be in the morning, it might be in the afternoon when I'm tired. I'm like, I'll just sit here, my eyes are closed. I'll just like kind of put my thoughts on paper, and that's okay. Um, Usually, this isn't a problem with my eyes closed unless my fingers are on the wrong keys. Then I look back, open my eyes, and three paragraphs have been just like garbled mess. That's happened a couple times. But just know that the point is getting the words on the paper. And the cool thing is that that flow of consciousness writing isn't there when you pick up my book. So this is one of my new books, Calming Angry Kids. It's gone through a lot of editing. What you see in this book is so different than my first thoughts, but at least I got the words down, I got my thoughts down, I got some stories down, I was able to edit things before I turned it in. Then I had an editor go like 2 rounds with me, getting it even more cleaned up. So just know, just getting the words on the paper is what matters. So when it comes to self-editing, first of all, self-editing wastes time. So when you work for 20 minutes on 3 sentences, you are missing out on the 100 sentences that you could have written. So just let yourself go for a sprint. Don't worry about getting all the words right, just getting them down. Also, self-editing also slows you down and keeps you out of the zone. I mentioned before, sometimes the words and the messages really quick kick in when I'm on page 2 and 3. It just takes like my brain a while to kick in, and pretty soon there might be a story there that I'm like, oh my goodness, I didn't even think about putting this story in this chapter. It doesn't even show up until I've been writing for a while because my brain has time to kick in. And the zone for me is where the words kind of just pour out. It doesn't mean that those words will always make it into the book, but I feel like it's something, a message that God wants me to share. Or in my novel, it might be the characters start taking over and taking the story on ways I never expected. So that is the zone. So know that I do self edit, but it usually comes later. So what I do is I usually write, just pour the words out, write a certain number of words, write a scene, write a chapter, and the next day I'll kind of skim over those and then keep going. So I know I'll go back and I'll fix all the things that need to be fixed, but now isn't the time to do it. Also, I will make notes to myself. So if I know I need to do a bit of research, if I need to look up a quote, I'll just leave a note to myself, insert quote about gratitude here. I don't have to stop and do 30 minutes on Google searches trying to find a perfect quote. That's something I can do later. At first, I'm just trying to get the words on the paper. So don't let yourself get caught up in those rabbit trails. Instead, just make a note like look up quotes from Czechoslovakia in 1942. I can do that later. Also, don't listen to naggy Nellie who tells you the words are no good. She will say, this is no good. You aren't the one to write the story. How did you ever think you should write this? Instead, I'm just like, hush, I'm not going to listen to you, and kind of push that out of my mind. And so next time Naggy Nelly kind of gets in your mind and is telling you, you can't do this, it's too messy, no one's going to like these words, just say, Tricia told me that she writes really, really messy drafts too, and I'm just getting the words on the paper. I can fix it later. So hopefully that will quiet her up. Also, trust the process. I am a messy writer, but I tell myself, I will go back, I will fix these things. I've never had a book show up on the shelf that is my rough first draft. There's a process, and people will help me with their process, and I don't need to get caught up in that. So basically, you're a writer, and at times you're an editor, but you don't want to be both at the same time. So first, just write, get the words down. Later, you can go back and edit them, and believe me, it'll make a huge difference when it comes to getting that work done.